Oh, boy. Oh, speaking of Mike from around the world, it's Mike from around the world.
Pastor Paul, how do I sound?
You sound great. Coming in
Great.
loud and clear. And
Good, good.
Matter of fact, I'm good. Can I turn him down?
2 clicks, yeah.
Clicks. 1, 2. Any more?
No, we'll be good.
Okay.
Good to go?
Good to go. Mike, how you
All
doing
right.
tonight?
Busy.
Yeah, sorry that we're a little behind schedule here, but we had some technical issues. We had to do it and put it in a whole brand new board in 30 minutes before the show.
Wow, that's impressive, but that happens.
You got Israel Hall here. He can do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a prodigy.
He is a prodigy. He really is. I mean, you're right. He really is. Long beard and everything. He's a prodigy.
Prodigal?
He's not. He might be a prodigal son and a prodigy. I'm not sure. Mike, what a web we weave. Okay, I just wanted to say. I just got thinking about today, and I said, no, wait a minute. Floods in Yellowstone. Floods yesterday. You get 7 inches of rain in St. Louis. You get 10 inches of rain in eastern Kentucky. Yet you got a 10-year drought in the West. Wildfires burning out of control. You have rogue waves hitting Hawaii. You have a 7.1 earthquake in the Philippines. 2 6.2s in Chile today. Planet X. What a web we're weaving. And then, oh, by the way, they're talking 3-state solution in Israel, not 2. Now they're talking 3. This is the front page of the Jerusalem Post. What is that? It's like hyperinflation, the southern border's out of control, we can't find baby milk, the shelves are empty. Mike, what a web we weave. What is going on? What are they feeding us? What are they trying to convince us of? Or is this just all part of a chaotic spider web of lies? Take it from here, Mike. What a web we weave.
Well, it's all the above. But if you think carefully, for a long time, the world order, starting in World War II, right? They had when they segmented all the lands and put everybody in their respective places, they effectively stalled, which is why Trump said that they were, NATO was kind of, worthless, and Macron even said they were brainless, right? Yeah. Something to that nature.
Something like that, yeah.
They lost their power. Leadership was separated by their ability to rule, and it was just falling fast. As soon as Putin invaded the Ukraine, all of a sudden Europe started to pay attention to their defense. They began to spend money by way of their defense because Europe was they were failing also. This war with the Ukraine with Putin has given a jump start to the world order. Now, after every single war, there's a world order that comes about.
That's true.
And so, but it had effectively stalled. They really needed a crisis like this to align everything back together, to get some of these corporations and entities that they had a lot of manpower, but they were the power balance was so out of line, and so now they're putting everything back the exact way they want to put it back, and they can do this because people are, there's a lot of right now it's a war between Russia and the Ukraine. That will soon spread to be Russia and NATO.
Wow.
That's going to happen fairly quickly.
Wow. Even before Russia finishes off Ukraine, something's going to happen. And who's going to strike first, Russia or NATO?
Well, if you think about it, what's some of the implementations of both sanctions, some of the strategic realignments of coal and oil have knocked Russia out of the loop, so to speak. And so what's cultivating now is a war between Russia and NATO. And this is why Europe said we need weapons fast. It's why most of the U.S. cities on the East Coast and on the West Coast, the North West Coast, are starting to really protect their let's just say they're working on defense. Canada, likewise, is starting to step up their defense practices because they understand that this war is about to expand. You're looking at something that's not going away. There is no fix. Macron said we have to leave Putin some sort of a back door, some sort of we can't just humiliate the guy. Wrong. They don't know who they're dealing with.
No.
Putin is not. Putin has a different mentality. It would take a person to actually learn the culture of Russia, understand how he thinks, because if he detects weakness in anybody, and believe me, it was a perfect storm. Not to call anybody weak or anything like that, but we had Joe Biden is somewhat passive in what he does. We had Macron, who's interested in himself. We had the chancellor was out of the picture. That was Europe's a strong point there. That's gone. So, and then with China, they forced a good relationship, and so that was a perfect storm for Putin to make his move. He thought he had the advantage, and somehow it kind of went south. But it was all expected anyway. Believe me, it was there. Now we have an empowerment of alliances forming in the Middle East with Russia, with Asia, complements of Asia, and so we have a severe, realignment of the world right now. Now it's really unclear if the U.S. is going to continue to be the top dog in this world order, because we were, but I use that term loosely. We were, meaning we can still make moves. I doubt that leadership will pick up the mantle fast enough to actually make that difference. Even if we went through an election process, it's still somewhat too late. You still have individuals that have to be, they're very resistive to change and common things. And so that part is too late. So with this realignment, NATO, this world order that they were looking for, they're actually doing exactly what they had planned to do back in the 1945 through 1960. It's almost like a playbook, and it's happening right before people's eyes. So is it contrived? I think they waited on a good opportunity. COVID did not do it, but the war with Ukraine did. Right? Crimea didn't do it, but the war with Ukraine did. He wants the Ukraine. He wants all three elements he lost from the USSR, and he's going to get them. So he'll die trying. Putin is a person who will die trying. He will die trying, but he'll make sure everybody else dies first. And so,
I mean, that makes him almost like a madman. I mean, he's become extremely dangerous if he'll die trying, but he wants everybody else to die first. Yeah, that's why he's threatening these nukes, right?
He's been that way.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about Putin. He's been that way. He's just not very. He does not show his hand to anybody. He projected this when the wall came down a long time ago. He projected the same sentiment, and he's been working on it ever since. And in fact, when the wall came down, it began a process in his thinking. And then when he stepped into power, he ordered the execution of 297 people, and within a week's time, they were all dead by poisoning, by these weird drive-by accidents, cut brake lines and things like that. But the poisoning was done by nuclear or radioactive particles that are only made in Russia. So, he has a long history of doing this. So he's very serious about what he wants to accomplish. He has a good poker face, so it's very difficult for people to even know him on the outside. And all those who were close to him will tell you, the Western culture does not know this. They don't know him. It's not that he's some outright evil guy. It's just that he is an expert liar, right? These KGB guys are expert liars.
They are. They really are.
And what I mean by that is they are taught, it's drilled in their heads to fool the public, to fool everybody in their surroundings, to make them see one person and to act and do your covert work differently. Just like he's a typical CIA agent. They do the same thing.
Same thing. Now, that's warfare, right? I mean, our CIA guys are great liars. The KGB guys are great liars. The Chinese are great liars. And that's all part of warfare, deception.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
And that's how we won World War II. We deceived. We really did. We deceived Adolf Hitler. He thought we were going to invade one place, and we had fake tanks made out of rubber or some kind of cardboard rubber type thing. He thought
aircraft.
Yeah. And
GI Joes were jumping in, little 1 foot tall stuffed figures.
Yeah,
airborne troops coming in and drew the Germans there. So yeah, that's part of tactics is to lie, unfortunately.
Now, Mike, let's also talk. You talk about this web we weave. You talk about this chaos, or let's say this new world order. This new order. Okay, you spoke about the chancellor, Angela Merkel. She's out of the play. She's out of the way, and the guy that's in charge is pretty weak. Biden's weak. You notice Boris Johnson's been removed. Benjamin Netanyahu's been removed. Now Naftali Bennett's been removed. The Italian prime minister resigns. The Sri Lanka prime minister flees the country. The country's collapsing. The former prime minister of Japan, the most popular one of all, assassinated. You know, this is boom, 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 boom. I mean, these things are happening like dominoes. There's something going on. There's a bigger hand at play here. Is that correct?
Of course it is. And anybody who would have the wherewithal to resist some of the plans that were coming forward, they have been effectively removed with little to no resistance, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of psychological operations that go on all the time. And to be honest with you, it often makes people angry when you tell them that the public they're acting just like people want them to. If they want the populace to like somebody, they know how to do it. They want the populace to hate someone, they know how to do it. Which is why personally I don't respond to anything I hear unless it comes through a spiritual vessel, to be honest with you, because I know how things work back in that. That's a good title, by the way, What a Web We Weave, because it's like maneuvering through a spider web, and everything you touch is going to trigger something else.
Yeah.
And often lots of psychological operations run continuously throughout the USA as called as keeping a handle on your population or engine parts. We're like engine parts, not necessarily people, but they want everything under control. And believe me, nothing is out of control. Nothing is out of control.
What about this New York City prepares citizens for the apocalypse? We had the public service announcement about get ready. Here's a drill. Well, here's what happens if there's a nuclear explosion. And now this week they come out with we need to prepare the citizens for the apocalypse. You need to get a bug out bag. You need to get. I mean, this is New York City. New York City.
That causes nervousness.
Emergencymanagement.gov.
Watch what happens.
Okay.
Watch what happens, fastball. That causes a change in how people relate themselves to any type of danger. Okay, so a policy will come forward, right?
Okay.
Which will require money to be poured into something dealing with defense or preparedness defense, and it's going to pass like easy, because once you start putting that idea in a person's head, naturally they're going to go home, they're going to look it up on the internet, searches for dirty bombs and searches for, and in fact, last week we had a talk, right? And the word dirty bomb was in there.
Yep.
Today, yesterday, and the day before that, guess what they were talking about? Dirty bombs.
Well,
they were talking about dirty bombs.
Yep.
So this was in the Washington Times, all over the place. So what they're doing is cultivating an atmosphere so that when these laws come to pass, people really won't see them. Whenever people think they have a necessity and the government starts talking about it, they will automatically say, yeah, go ahead and do that. We're not going to resist that. Go ahead and do it. And so that's a further maneuvering of people. The real issue is not what man can do to man. The real issue is what's happening as a result of man's activities on the earth. The earth will always respond to whatever man practices. So if man would govern himself, we would notice a stark change in things. We would, but man is not doing that. And so what happens is everything around mankind degrades in accordance with man's spirit. I believe that wholeheartedly, because I've seen impossible things take place from rotten people as well as good people. So, but everything is still working out just like they want it to, right? At some point, people are going to have to break themselves out of being hypnotized by the world and say, wait a minute, what am I doing? What am I supporting? Because normally if you are against anything in the world, you're actually supporting something else in the world. So the best thing to do, they put a game before you and they say pick side A or B in most cases. Well, Christians have to learn to say, I'm not playing that game. Right. I'm not here to play that game. That's your game. I'm not playing that. So, but nobody ever told a person they had to play the game. But the world teaches us to play beyond A or B. As a consequence of that, there's always been drama in a time where things don't quite work out the way they want to, right? There are chaotic figures in power right now. Macron, I do not expect Macron to, I had to put this gently. Okay. Let's just say that some boats, right, they hit icebergs and sink. Just put it that way. Because
So wait a minute.
because of his.
You don't expect Macron to succeed with his trying. He's trying to become the leader of the world. I think everybody's running to Macron. You notice that King Abdullah.
Everybody's listening. They're listening to him.
You don't expect Macron to be successful, or do or are you saying you expect Macron to crash into the iceberg?
I expect someone to put that iceberg out there. I really do.
Ah.
When you're like that, you draw too much attention to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Then that makes people nervous. And Macron is already starting, according to the playbook of what they want to put together. Now, remember, everything ultimately leads to the beast system. That's already documented. And believe it or not, their plans align with what's in Revelation, right? These are written, these are in manuals. Okay, these are not just ideas. These are manuals, actual manuals. And they exist, and they line up with Revelation. They're going to bring about this kingdom of the beast and make all the preparations necessary so that when he comes on the scene, there's an acceptability of this figure, right? He will come when the food runs out. Shortly after the food is in severe crisis, he's coming.
He being the Antichrist.
Yeah, this thing is coming. When the food crisis hits an all-time high, right? When people really become desperate because of food specifically, he's coming. He's coming. The people cannot be in a strengthened state when he comes. They have to be in a weakened state so they can be accepting a very, let's just say, a different way of leadership, right? They also have to be accepting of spiritual things. So people can't be spiritually dead when this guy comes on the scene.
No.
They're going to be very receptive of spiritual things, which could be the reason why they chose this time to begin to disclose all this UFO topic. And that goes in conjunction with all the television programs of ghosts and goblins and cryptids and all these things, right? So it's a plan to this. They are conditioning the people for full acceptance. This coincides with quite a few things that they know are approaching in the heavens and the changes of Earth itself, right? So, now, these are real dangers. Although they knew about these are absolutely real dangers.
So you're saying that the alien disclosure and the whole alien agenda is part of the web that we weave.
Yes.
And it's to help bring about the New World Order?
That's right. Because when this guy walks through the door, their words, not mine, and he walks through the door, he's going to have an army before him. He's not going to walk through without an army. The army will be in position everywhere. Okay, that's already documented. That army is going to be in position everywhere. That's not a fictitious army either, and it's not something man can do anything about. They just can't. Spiritual people can, but the common man cannot. They'll find that out painfully, but they can't do anything about that. So this army will be topside with people. They will coexist with people. They're going to be known for what they are too, somewhat of a vanguard, right? So through a great show of force. But what happens when a powerful set of figures, right, makes friends with the indigenous people? What happens? The people begin to look at them like they're heroes. I'm telling you what's going to happen. People will begin to accept them, invite them. Why? Because if you saw something, a group of people, say 1,000 people strong in stature, and you saw them in your neighborhood and they were about 14 feet high. I'm exaggerating here, but I'm just saying they were huge, right? Whoa. And if you saw them and all of them had weapons, and they gave you the jitters on the inside, right? Yeah. And you just got this evil feeling. But then when they approach you, they say, don't fear. We're going to protect you. Everything, your psyche changes. How you see them, it changes. You have such a relief, right, that you will, without knowing, start to protect them. You'll start to listen to them. You'll start to trust them. It's the way you can develop an instant trust bond with people you don't even know is first to have a show of intimidation, right? And have the wherewithal to back that up. And the people have to perceive that. But then when you give them a peace message, all of a sudden everybody starts to bend.
Everybody will embrace the Antichrist.
There you go. There you go.
He's going to solve the world's insuperable problems, is what Malachi Martin said. First, you got to have the problems. Have to be so big and so impossible. And then you have a man that arrives that says, hold on a minute. At first he comes with great fear, but then he says, but he embraces you. And then you say, whoa, maybe this guy's here to protect us. He's here to help us. He's here to save us, you know. And save us from what? From each other, from the climate change, from the invading aliens, from nuclear annihilation, from pandemics. This guy is here to save us. Bring peace and prosperity. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but here's the difference.
Okay.
We're going to have, the world's going to be in shambles at that time.
Yeah.
See, there's going to be a type of desperation. All right.
Okay, yeah.
There are certain geological events that are taking place right now. They're not reversing. They're getting worse. Ocean levels will all of a sudden rise about 15 feet very soon. Our skies are going to be in trouble. Auroras are going to be seen all over the place, and people are going to have radiation sickness in several parts of the earth. So we're going to have some real problems, The dynamo of the earth in its toroidal reactions are starting to flip. That's what everybody was looking for. So it's not going to be an excursion recovery like it normally is, our magnetic field. This time, we're going to see a small pulse reversal of the magnetic field. And what that means is anything the sun lets off, even solar winds, are going to have a drastic effect on wherever the sunlight touches. There will come a time when people will say, nope, I can't let the sunlight touch me, or it's going to hurt. You know, it's going to start burning, and it will burn. Charged particles moving charged particles will follow the magnetic field lines of the earth. And the dynamo, the proposed dynamo in the earth, of course, now they know exactly what it is. I'm just keep it as a dynamo. Its toroidal mechanism is starting to reverse. Its flow is starting to reverse because it has 4 major flows inside the earth. One of them is toroidal. One of them is straight up and down from pole to pole, and another set of forces go around. These are fluids moving, just like components. It's quite amazing, but they've actually seen it in motion now. It will blow your mind. So think about a liquid component or a liquid gear made out of molten iron or molten nickel or something like that, and it's holding its shape, but it's just like a mechanical piece, but it's liquid. They're starting to fluctuate. It's mind-blowing. Anyway, when this changes, it's going to cause we're going to have somewhat of a small pause, not a total collapse of the magnetosphere. But once it flips and the polarity changes, it's going to absorb to the surface of the earth the solar winds. We don't need a flare to burn up the surface of the earth when that happens.
Are we going to burn from the inside out?
Outside in. The solar winds, right, that always hit the earth,
yes.
Instead of going around to the poles, are going to be absorbed.
Okay.
They're going to be absorbed all around the earth, right? This is going to be almost like it'll be pulsed or sporadic because the magnetic field is about to go through a chaotic change. It's already happening in certain parts of the earth. The magnetic field lines are in chaos. Even in simulations, there's a realignment. There is no given time for it. We're not overdue for it because it is it's so sporadic. There is no timeline it actually follows. This happens, whenever it wants to, due to many different conditions, but it just so happens we're in the middle of one now. This heating process is heating up the crust of the earth, of course, the surface of the earth. And we're about to have a major water problem, which is one of the most concerning things people probably need to know about, is that because it's not going to go away past, but it's absolutely 100% going to happen in conjunction with some of the crazed activities of mankind. We have a big ice shelf about to fall over. It is landlocked ice.
What?
It is land-based ice, right? It will displace the ocean, and the oceans will rise up to 15 feet.
Where's this at?
That is right there in Antarctica, right? We have two major spots in Antarctica, which are about to totally break off. There is no ice. You have this big ice sheet, and for a long time, you couldn't even penetrate where the land met the ice. Now you can send a sub underneath this ice shelf to go way back into the back of it, which means it's hanging off like a diving board. There are 7 or 8 different places this same way. Pascal, the surface temperatures are melting the ice from the ground up, and they're about to fall over. If one of them goes back another 2 feet, right?
Yep.
Just 2 feet, it's going to fall. When it falls into the ocean, all that ice is going to go out. There's a ring around Antarctica, right? that ring is a cold water ring, which forces hot water back out so that ice maintains itself. If this ice sheet falls, which it will, right? We're not talking about years, plural, either. It's not what we're talking about, and this is why it's a game changer, really. But this once this thing falls, it's going to disrupt the ring of cold water going around Antarctica, which will then, that warm water is going to come in and start by way of convection going underneath the ice, melting off the rest of it. So we're going to have several different breaks. One break in particular could raise all the ocean levels by 15 feet.
So that's why you say ocean tides will increase by 15 feet, or ocean levels will increase by 15 feet.
Now, no tsunami. No anything. They're going to raise 15 feet.
They're just going to slowly raise like this. They're just going to slowly raise.
Yes, slowly meaning in the course of about 12 hours.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's okay. Now, so coastal flooding will be a massive. There'll be lives lost. Mike.
Oh, yeah.
You can't have the ocean go up 15 feet all over the world.
That's right. That's right.
Millions of people will die. They'll never get out of the way in time.
Here's the bad part. They have spent literally trillions of dollars watching this, right?
Yeah.
Trying to really get a grapple on this, and there is nothing anybody can do. They have on-station personnel who are, they're not in good shape, but mentally, because they know what's about to happen. And there's nothing they can do about it. There's not a thing they can do. And the Earth continues to heat up and heat up and heat up and heat up. And so these ice sheets, it's not any glacier that's in the ocean is not a problem. It can melt all day. It's no big deal. It's already in the water, right? But when you have something on the land masses that was not connected with the water, and then it falls into the water, that's where you have these ocean rises. And so they knew this for a long time. This has actually been monitored, Paul, since World War II. Do you know that?
Is that part of why they go down there? Is that partly why people are running down to the Antarctica and world leaders?
No, that wasn't why. There are some other things there that they were checking out, but
I think this one is going to be a doozy. I think we talked about that. Some underground fellas that we really don't want to see come out, and some other entities that's not happy. Well, okay, so Antarctica ice sheet's about to break off. That would cause ocean tides to rise about 15 feet, or ocean levels to raise 15 feet in 12 hours, which that is unbelievable. That would be the biggest catastrophe since the flood of Noah.
Well, there's one more thing too, Paul.
You got more?
Unfortunately.
Okay.
Around the rim of the Earth, there is a if you took a balloon and you could somehow spin a balloon, right? The centrifugal forces at the rim of that balloon would push anything inside this balloon out. So it would be like this egg shape after a while, right? Like an oval shape. The Earth is effectively like that. It's a 300-foot wall of water at the equator, right?
Okay.
And what's holding that up is the spin of the Earth, right?
Yep.
Temperatures also they play a big role in this, because it's not just centrifugal forces holding this up. There's another issue, because there are small, tiny fluctuations, vibrations in the Earth that are causing the rotation of the Earth to sputter. Right now it's on a micro level, right?
Okay.
But anybody who's worked with sound, they understand that one sound can cancel out another sound. Or if you have a subwoofer vibrating up and down and you introduce another frequency into that subwoofer, you can effectively stop it from vibrating. The Earth has a wobble. The Earth has continuous vibrations, but we have, for some reason, externally frequencies. There's an influence of pulsing or something is causing the Earth to sputter in its consistency of its rotation. Now, it's not enough to really feel right now, but if there is a 1% change in the way the Earth rotates, that 300-foot wall of water, is going to decrease from the equator and be distributed all over the Earth.
Yeah.
Before it picks up again. Now, the Earth has done this. They've calculated the Earth has done this at least 20,000 times.
But it hasn't done it. It hasn't done it in a long time.
That's right. That's right. So that means it's a normal process. We just never knew about,
Yeah.
which means there will come a time. So that's two water woes, actually. Um, these Antarctic ice sheets, and of course, like Thwaites Glacier is a good example of that, because people can find lots of information on Thwaites Glacier. If that Thwaites Glacier is going to go, but if it goes, they'll have a good idea of what will happen to the other, 8. And we're not looking at years, by the way. This is an immediate issue. But likewise, if the rotation sputters, we're going to have some problems with flooding. Now, unfortunately, that's going to be followed by hardly no moisture that we can consume at all, because they know that the Earth in its position and proximity to other stars and other objects in our galaxy, everything is about to change. That means our weather is going to drastically change. The Earth is emitting more and more gamma rays from the inside out. Yeah. Magma is always on the move, right? Always on the move. And it's melting off because it's absorbing all of what the sun is putting out. This magma is supercharged. The heat factor is going up. It's melting more rock. It's coming closer to the surface. That means we're about to have an incident. A couple of weeks ago, I was looking for some earthquakes. That will be followed by a major eruption. Well, we've had the earthquakes. That's a relief point. A major eruption will follow, because there's no way that the crust of the Earth can maintain certain cracks where the magma pressures is very strong. So look for a major eruption. Now that we've had a few relief points here, a few earthquakes.
Are you thinking 8, maybe even a 9 on the Richter scale?
Well, if we had some consistent 5.0s, maybe about 13, or some 7.0s, maybe about 2 or 3 or 4, because we'll have some more big shakers. Right after that, there's no way that the Earth is going to hold back that magma pressure that's breaching. It's already breaching. That magma is coming up somewhere. California is a dangerous spot because it has ancient volcanoes, which they're heating up. The ground is heating up. They have probes all over the place. It's heating up. You have more lakes are starting to go down in their water levels. The public lies are running out because you have people out there that are purposely trying to tell. I don't know if they think they're helping or not, but they're saying, oh, nothing's wrong with Hoover Dam. Nothing's wrong with Lake Mead.
Lake Mead is going
nothing's
dry.
wrong with this.
Rio Grande.
You know what?
The Rio Grande's going dry. The Rio Grande went dry in New Mexico. I mean,
there's something wrong with these people, Pastor.
Yeah,
there's something wrong with these. Like they say that Lake Mead's not going to go down down to that third intake. Wrong. That's wrong. They have months based on how that water level is dropping and the exponential rate at which that water is disappearing. They have months. And we know that Las Vegas cannot function without water. They just can't do that. So they have months. And guess what? Since even that calculation was made a week ago, it's already gone down lots of feet from that moment. Yeah. So, it's happening exponentially.
So this web they weave is based on trying to survive. Is what I'm hearing you say is they know that our Earth is going to go through a major apocalyptic period. Jesus said it. Jesus said in the last days you'll see all these mankind doing all these ungodly things, turning on one another and brutalizing each other in different reasons, at the same time that the earth is going to be going through these apocalyptic earthquakes, pestilence, diseases, shortages of foods, famines, So something's happened to the earth, which in turn, something's happened to mankind. That's what I'm hearing you say. So the message we're getting is a web of lies, a weaving web of lies to satisfy the populace or to confuse the populace, while the elitists are preparing to try to survive this apocalyptic era. Is that possible?
Well, they're going to do that. Plus, they already knew. Listen, they have all the resources, right? They know what's out in the heavens. They know what's happening in the earth. They have teams that study prophecy. They pay the archaeologists to dig up all the finds that they have. They pay them. Right? It's very difficult to find independent teams this day. And God bless those who are independent teams, because I know what they have to face, and it's not easy. Anyway, these guys, they're institutions. They know exactly what's going to happen. So what they do is they maneuver people. How do you get a person? How do you get a person? This is psychological operations, 101. But how do you get a person to accept a disaster and still be loyal to leadership that absolutely failed them? How do you do that? How do you get your populace to totally embrace leadership when they know they failed them, right?
Yeah,
But
like right now.
Well, here's how you do it.
Okay.
If you have a person who's hungry, pass ball, right? That person's hungry, and you have no violent responsibility for them, they're going to start thinking about the hunger and rebel against their leaders. If you think of a cause that requires a person to give up all of themselves to keep something very sacred, they're going to give their life for it, right?
Okay.
I'm telling you right now that under the banner of patriotism, they're going to consume as much as they can, right? There's a gap of time that people have, and maybe they'll use it during this next election with lots of prayer. Maybe they won't. But I can tell you this: if they don't get things in order spiritually, so that they can do something spiritually with this leadership, the call of patriotism is going to be more like socialism and communism.
Yeah. Oh, you're saying they're going to flip the script. You're saying that the left is going to start calling. Well, they're already saying it. They're saying, "Come to California, where there's really truly freedom." Okay, meaning the Roe v. Wade overturning took people's freedoms away. So they're going to start saying that they're the true freedom party. They're the true democracy. Right now, January 6th. What's that all about? To save democracy. So that's what you're saying. They're going to flip the script. They're going to say what they're doing is to save freedom, to protect us, when it's probably it looks like the opposite.
Yeah, it's really time for some spiritual. For a long time, we haven't had strong spiritual influence in our leadership. It's make or break now. If people don't do it now, that's it. If they don't do it now, I think it was 5 elections in a row. I've been saying the same thing. If Christians do not stand up spiritually, and they begin to allow the Lord to lead them in what they should do as far as elections and leadership and what they should do at home with their families, if they don't instill that spiritual sense of morals and values, again, if they don't do it, they're the last line of defense for Satan himself. Satan has no power over the saints, but he does have power over those who serve him. Yes, right? Yes. Christians do not serve him. Christ gave us power over him, over everything he would do if we have power against him. But what's happening now is that if the Christians become so consumed in what the world is doing, they're gonna forget their spiritual stance, their morality. They're gonna be involved violently in these bickering fights, right? And they're gonna forget about their. I mean, every Christian out there who believes in Christ is royalty. Right? All the kingdoms of the world are going to be handed over to them in the first place anyway, right? So they're royalty in the making. And to stand up spiritually now means everything. Because if they don't, everybody should see right now that every day that goes by, every day we don't stand up spiritually, immorality is the order of the day. And that death and destruction and chaos and violence follows that immorality, pure and simple. And soon, the heavens are about to exacerbate these issues because, Pascal, when we have objects in the sky that cause fear to the average person, right? Yeah. When things are no longer secret, but and believe me when I tell you this, this sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, there's a day coming where manifestations are going to be authorized by the Most High, and people will they'll sit in the corner of their homes, messed up, right, scared to do anything. But this will happen at the same time that the heavens change. The heavens are going to change. The sun is going to change. It's not going to be like it is too much longer. The dimmer it gets, the hotter it's going to get. It's going to start burning stuff up. It's going to get to the point where sunlight, people will say, I can't let the sun touch me. It hurts. It hurts.
The Bible says that. The Bible
says
is
coming
that
quick.
In Revelation 16, it says that. Because men will, be scorched.
And just in case people haven't noticed, I know we're having a bad summer. I know that the heat is hot. I know that the moisture, the ability, the AADL values, what I call it, AADL values, the potential for the atmosphere to maintain moisture has gone up from the beginning of this year. it's almost about to double what it was able to carry from the beginning of the year. So atmospheric compression is taking its toll, which means this winter, past Paul, this winter is going to be inescapable for a great many people. I'm telling you, it's going to be. Think of the storms that we're having. These are pop-up storms. These are not major fronts that were coming in.
They're
These
like
are
rain
pop-up
bombs,
storms.
and they're rain bombs.
Just pop-up storms.
Pop-up
and they
storms.
all do the same thing. They drop an enormous amount of water, right? So what this means is during the wintertime, when the temperatures go down, this potential is going to be dispersed all over the planet. That means where you would have 5 inches of snow in one place, you may have 15 feet of snow. Because that moisture, 2 or 3 inches of rain translates into quite a few feet of snow.
That's crazy.
If this builds up over time in the winter, what happens when all of a sudden, because winter will break just like this, people are going to see a lot of snow one day. The next day is going to be 81 degrees. All that snow is going to melt.
No.
How much water are we going to be under?
We're going to be swamped because the ground's still frozen, and then all of a sudden you're going to have water. I mean, it would be mass flooding.
You can have massive floods.
Yeah,
massive
landslides
floods,
and floods.
Right?
Look at eastern Kentucky right now. 10 inches of rain. Mike, I have a lot of family that lives there. I don't know what's happened to them. I have 70-some cousins that live in eastern Kentucky. So they got these hills, and those hills just go straight down. They got little valleys, big hills. It's the worst place in the world for a lot of rain because that rain is coming down all into the small areas where people live. My question is, if it's like the worst place in the world to drop 10 inches of rain, and that's where
it's almost like a message.
It's almost like a message, and they don't care much for those people anyway. Unfortunately, those folks, economically are challenged, and there's a lot of things. They've been kind of abandoned ever since the coal industry died. So is it possible man manipulation of weather is happening? Look at St. Louis. I mean, is it happening, Mike? But we got 10 years of drought in the West Coast.
That's right. And the droughts are about to get worse. The only problem with the man-made thing is that there are, in these places where you have these small towns, there are expensive military assets in these places. I mean, expensive. And water's the last thing they want to hit these assets. There are assets that exist in the Appalachian Mountains that if, in some of these, for example, like a place called McDowell County, nobody ever goes to that county, right? There are expensive military assets there that cannot be lost. And if they were to ever flood that area again, they're going to lose. They're going to lose one of those assets. Probably it's worth, I give it about $200 or $300 trillion. It's one asset that's worth that much money.
Could the Chinese or Russians be doing this?
We often interrupt on the West Coast, right? We often interrupt any of these pulse waves. They call them DNA waves. That's what you can call them by Doppler. But any of these waves, we often disrupt those on the East Coast. So if you see Doppler doing something real shady on the West Coast, if you see it doing it on the West Coast, that's us countering these pulses that other people put out, right? Because they test technology like that in the atmosphere. There are telltale signs on Doppler whenever anybody uses these things. In fact, Doppler can tell you a lot. If people start looking at Doppler and really break it down, they're going to see everything they ever wanted to see right there. And it's been right before people's eyes. I probably shouldn't have said that, but Doppler shows everything, right?
Yeah.
And that's often interrupted. These weather weapons, they will never use them in places where there are expensive assets. And that's the problem with actually, the water level went up by 16.2 feet. That broke the records. 16.2 feet. It went up in Kentucky, and it went up in Louisiana at the height of its. Not Louisiana. That was also Kentucky. It was 17.3 feet. So it went up that high, dropped that much rain. It sucked the oxygen out of the air. That's a cloudburst, is what that actually is. But it's impossible to have a cloudburst in the formation of how it formed. The clouds were actually dropping back on themselves. You're supposed to lose moisture when this happens in a cumulonimbus cloud due to the dryness of the upper atmospheres. But more particles are coming in out from space, causing the upper atmospheres to have more and more matter. So when they have more matter, they also push and contribute matter to the clouds, which is dust, and thus it holds much more moisture than normal. right? Rain falls because it's more matter introduced into the clouds. This is a exponential problem. It's happening all over the place. The military is not going to destroy its own assets. They're just not going to do that.
No,
That's too
no.
costly.
Okay.
And
So
right where it hit, Pastor Paul, was I'm telling you, these small places, there are big things in these small places. They're there for a reason. You know, it's a reason
yeah.
why they don't mention West Virginia too much.
No, I
There's a
know.
reason for that. But there you are. I believe this is a big deal. Now spiritually, here's what I was looking at this when I saw that rainfall. A scripture came to my head instantly. It rains on the just as well as the unjust.
Yes, that's
That
true.
was a scripture that came to my mind, almost like, you know, what we're about to endure is not about this group or that group, right? These are actual events that God has sanctioned. And to be honest with you, if God says that something is going to happen, it doesn't really matter how. It just matters that it took place.
That's true. That's prophecy. That's prophecy. Okay.
Yeah.
Whether
But I
it's
believe that
man-made or God directed, either way, it's prophecy. And then let's just say it: Planet X or Nibiru or the binary system. That's part of prophecy. The effects that's doing to the earth. That's why Jesus said it in Matthew 24, and you know, in Luke, Mark 13, Luke 21, and all the other scriptures in Revelation and what have you, in 2 Peter 3 and all that, in Isaiah 24, all of the pole shift, all of that. It's actually God's using this system to bring about the prophecies of the end days, and now that we know what's happening, we have to prepare ourselves to be ready in many ways, but certainly spiritually, we can't go into this blind, can we, Mike?
No. That's why it's good to know. You know, the Bible says, be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. A serpent is wise because it knows its environment. It knows everything in its environment. And in fact, snakes are everywhere, but we just don't see them. Why? Because they know where we are, and they know where they're not going to be when we come around, but they see everything in their environment. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't want to know everything because they say they get frightened. I think fear comes from the imagination. It comes from not knowing having insecurities about the end result of certain things. But if a person would just simply surrender, to what Jesus said, right? God told us to know the condition of our flock. We're not to, you know, cover our eyes up or put our heads in the sands, but we're to be able to walk in the valley of the shadow of death and fear no evil. That means if you walk in the valley of the shadow of death, first of all, you're aware of all the death, decay, destruction, everything else. But to fear no evil means you actually believe in the sovereignty of the living God, his promises, his declarations, and his prophecies. So we have nothing to worry about. And up until this point, people have been hurt when they were young. Yes, they've been hurt because everybody has to be qualified when they're young. As they get older, though, we're under a different covering because we're past that age of accountability. We can make our own choices, and we have not been hurt severely like that. God will have us in a position to wake us up in certain areas. And sometimes, Pastor Paul, you know, I won't wake up unless my alarm clock blows up beside me or something, right? Because you used to the same sound all the time, right?
That's right.
So new tactics have to be used for us to wake us up, or we will not wake up. And we're not here to perish. We're here to be saved, period. And we have to, I think a lot of people ought to keep their minds on that because they're going to see some things they don't want to see. But they have to learn to say, Jimmy crack corn, and I don't care. My father's doing this. I have no need to fear it. And they have to get used to that so that they can navigate everything that comes and not shut their eyes, but walk right through it. God made us to walk through everything, to face everything. He never made us to run away. We can't pull
What's
an
the
Elijah.
timeline? What's the timeline, approximate timeline on this Planet X? And I mean, give me.
I think we're going to have water problems. Pastor Paul, we're going to have severe water problems. Severe water problems. I'd estimate that will be coming. We'll see some signs of that in December.
Really?
Of these,
okay.
You know, because I'm telling you, it doesn't take much. It's not going to take much for something to go wrong with these. In fact, from right now, as we're speaking, to early 2023, I expect one of these ice sheets to break off. I really do expect ocean levels to go berserk. Now, here's the problem with that. They're going to recede. You know, once it breaks, due to the heat, they're going to recede. But if more water is introduced into the oceans and it's fresh water like that, that water is going to evaporate, add to the AADL value in the atmosphere, causing more rains. But this time, the rains are going to begin to dry up because of extensive radiation externally. The sun is about to pull a wicked shimmy. Its chemical composition is changing. That's why it's acting the way it is. They can be dodos and try to give excuses for this all day. Any person who knows how to optically measure radiation and optically measure certain the chemistry of the sun, they can see this in their instruments. There's certain levels of there's certain levels that are declining almost to zero in the sun. The sun's chemistry is changing big time.
Mike, what was those red glows that they saw from the heavens over the oceans? I mean, what was that?
Oh, in the oceans?
Well,
that they were in the oceans?
No, they were above the oceans. They were
sprites. Those are sprites.
Okay, even those red glows. But
those are sprites, Pascal. You have sprites. You have plasma. Maintain plasma discharges from the Earth, right?
Yeah.
But here's the issue with that. You also have a lot of, like off the coast of California right now, there's a lot of activity underneath the ocean, right? Yeah. Lots of activity. Some of the no-fly zones that they've currently put in place is so that aircraft will not fly near these areas. Or they're going to fly in to get cloud cover so people won't scare themselves, because in the ocean, you fly over certain parts of the ocean at certain times, the whole ocean floor is lit up. Green, yellow, all sorts of colors, right? So we have changing elements in the Earth, changing. Now, as it changes below at the ocean floor, it's also going to change above our heads. Everybody ought to get ready to see auroras all over the place. That's an indication that the magnetosphere is altering. It's also an indication that radiation is inbound. Right?
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of radiation.
It's going to be inbound. Yeah. I mean everywhere too. And that will likely precede some of these. For example, we have a large body coming by us, I believe, where's my calendar? A couple days. It's not going to be published. Nobody's going to find this on yellow or anything.
I mean, wait. No, what? I mean, Mike, are you serious?
31st. It's on the 31st.
It's not even on spaceweather.com.
No, it's not. It's not going to be on any of those things. You know how when they say, "Oh, we had an object pass us and it skimmed us, got close," right? We didn't know anything about it. They're lying. Okay, so they lie a lot. But right. For example, we have something passing us on the 31st. They normally get that same narrative. The difference in this is this has junk falling off of it. Right, a lot of junk is going to come off of it. So don't be surprised if you see some turquoise light, amber lights, or whatever, things like that in the sky, or different things like that. Don't be surprised. From the 31st to the 3rd of August, don't be surprised if you see anything like that, because normally when this is debris coming in, it's also beginning to multiply. It's multiplying coming in. Pascal, a couple of weeks ago, I made this. Sometimes I'll do this from time to time. I don't want to get myself in trouble.
Okay.
But sometimes I'll make a call like that just to see who's listening, and it's amazing. Like I'll say this tonight, right? You probably remember. Your folks remember, but you'd be surprised how many people, once it happens and passes, it's like they never knew it.
They forget
the same thing. Yeah, until something else big comes, they never knew it. The problem is these things are piling up. Right? Event after event. And if you take 5 years, look at everything that happened in the scope of 5 years, condense all that, and this is what you're going to see in the next few months. Concerning earthquakes,
that's
concerning
rapid.
Volcanic eruptions, all this stuff is increasing that fast.
That's huge.
Right? That fast.
That's huge.
Animal die-offs, like all the cows that died and they were pointing in one direction. What kind of stuff is that? Sheep, same thing. A bunch of sheep died. They were all pointing in one direction. Something is happening here that's beyond normal, is what I'm saying. There's an influence here. That's if we pay attention, it's almost like a clear message. But we really have to not take anything for granted, right? We can't go fantasy on it, but just take under consideration. Cows don't die pointing in the same direction. Not all of them. No. I think it was 114 head of cattle just dropped over, pointing in the same direction. Sheep, the same thing, right? Sheep certainly don't point in the same direction like that. So that's just weird, right?
Yeah,
that's weird.
It's really weird.
When scientists try to explain one thing, something different happens, right? And sometimes these things culminate. Looking in hindsight, you often say, "I wish I would have done something back then. I should have paid attention," right? Well, this time, I do honestly believe that the Earth changes that we're seeing will become quite drastic. They're going to become dry. There have been fatalities from things people don't know about. Research teams have been lost this week. Nobody knows about that. And these guys, they're trying to get the message out. That message is being stifled and controlled.
Yeah, I
So
was going to
it really
say,
pays to pay attention.
so independent archaeologists, independent explorers, independent weather chasers or analyzers, independent journalists, people who think outside the box or actually don't drink the Kool-Aid and are saying, wait a minute. Here's what's really happening here. Let's go investigate this. They are up against the machine. They're up against the web that is being weaved. I mean, don't you think? We're up against it. And Christians, we seem to be targeted. I mean, the world, the big machine doesn't like us. I mean, even to the point, Mike, I'm going to ask you a question. Does the New World Order, will the big machine, does it sometimes take out individual people that they deem as a threat?
Sure it does. Sure they do.
Make it look like accidental death.
A long time. Yeah, car accidents to even dying of natural causes. They have caused that too. There are substances you can put on somebody's door handle can induce a cardiac arrest with no evidence of, and plus the doctor who's going to give you the once over, right? They enter all that stuff into a computer. And if you enter in certain things, that computer terminal is flagged, right? And so you have to, everything has to be aligned. Everything has a billing code. If it does not match that billing code for you, you can't enter that into these systems. You're not going to get paid for that. And so if it doesn't match the billing code or something like that, then they can't do it. But there are flags that pop up on a computer. If a certain substance is detected in a person's bloodstream, they're flagged. If they have a certain blood type mixed with something else, they're flagged. And that's normally when a doctor leaves for a while and they do weird things. They're advised because they want their money. Unless you find a doctor who's a doctor for free, right? They're being paid. And if they're being paid, they don't want a disruption in their pay. Right. So ultimately, the federal government can, just totally wipe them off the record, and they have no more job left. So in truth, the federal government is overriding everything, and believe it or not, what they say goes, right? Like these folks that came out and said that they're trying to tell people that the CIA is the news media. They have to go through checks and balances of every story they produce, and if it does not align with the narrative of programming the people, it's not going to be published. And so you see newscasters up there frustrated because they can't say what they want to say, and they know it. They know if they cross the line, they're going to die. Nobody's going to care. Nobody will know. All they have to do is say they died of natural causes. Now, for a Christian, they have to get authorization to take the life of a Christian. In other words, I mean, if the Father does not give them permission, you're not going to die.
Right. They're not going to. They can't overtake God.
No. They even know that's an issue, right? It's kind of like Hamas when they complain. They said, we're going to sue Israel because their God is making our rockets go in the wrong direction. Yeah. You guys remember that? So it's kind of like that.
Yeah. Mike, this is a great broadcast. I mean, you just filled our minds with understanding why this is. It is a web. It is a web that's being weaved, and we need to understand that we don't get caught in the web. Don't get caught up in the propaganda. Don't get caught up in the spirit of the Antichrist. Keep our eyes on Jesus. Keep following. Keep loving one another. And the Lord is coming back for those of us that are ready. And you got to be born again to be ready, Mike. Is that right?
Yeah, you do. Yeah. When you're born again, that's when your desires change.
Yes, it will.
A lot people ask about that a lot and say, well, why do you not? When did that desire change? Buddy, that's when I was born again. That's something God directs. When we're serious about the Lord, He will give you a born again spirit, and that's when you have a brand new set of desires. Amen. You start throwing stuff away, and you don't need this anymore. Don't need that. But the Lord does that. That's a seal. That's a seal upon us. So, amen. But I would like everybody to be advised these issues and circumstances that we're going through, although they seem confusing. Right? They're being collapsed. They're being collapsed, which means you're going to go through everything in a much shorter span of time. And this will continue to happen and happen and happen until it overwhelms the average person. So this is, that's just the way it is. But if a person stands up spiritually, no one has power to knock them down. Wow. No one.
What are we going to talk about next? What do you think we might be discussing next Thursday, Mike?
Oh, my. Well, Pastor, you know what? I have my eyeballs on a volcano. I haven't said this a long time, but I'm looking for an eruption in South America right now. I'm looking for that eruption.
Wow.
If that happens, we're going to be discussing strategy.
Strategy.
I believe.
If this
Yeah, because if that
volcano,
blows,
South America.
if that coast plate is disrupted, and it's getting very close to being disrupted, if it gets disrupted, the marker of that's going to be an eruption in South America. So if that's disrupted, California, that nightmare of California is going to be, that's going to become a reality very quickly. Very quickly.
Strategy, if that happens. Well, we'll be watching. We'll be praying and watching. And Mike, as always, thank you for coming on, being with us tonight. It was very good. I really appreciate it.
Well, God bless you, Pastor Paul. It's
bless
always
you.
an honor.
It's always an honor to be with you, brother. God bless. Lord willing, we'll see you next week.
All right.
All right. Good night.
God bless.
All right, folks. Mike from the world.